Hey friends, welcome to Light Metaphors again. I just want to bring you into this process of how I airbrush a little bit. I've been working on this shirt and I'm going to continue working some more on it. It's been a project that was never really completed, so I just want to invite you into it and watch how I do some of this art, which is called the Art of Airbrushing. Air as in propelled by an air compressor, and it's an instrument that can really pull off some pretty incredible effects and even photorealistic effects. And I was blessed to learn how to airbrush in my teens, and I did it for quite a few years, but then I stopped for a long time. And my art teacher introduced me to the airbrush, and another great blessing that I had through her was that later on, quite a few years later, probably about maybe 20 years later or more, she invited me back to her class, and she was still teaching, and she allowed me to teach her students the airbrush, the art of airbrush as well. And so it was a blessing to be able to do that. And it's a form of art that's been around for a long time. And it's something that if you like the arts and you're interested in doing, it'd be a good thing to try out and get the feel of. It takes quite a lot of time and experience to begin to control the airbrush, because you're able to control both fine detailed lines as well as wide misty lines, shading. All that can be accomplished by the airbrush, and it's a pretty awesome tool. And it does take a lot of control with your finger and the trigger. There is a trigger, and if you press directly down, all you get is air. But when you press down and keep it down and you pull the trigger back, you'll get ink. And then to the degree you pull the trigger back and is the degree in which your line thickness will be, or it determines your line thickness. So if I want to draw detailed lines, I just push down the trigger, pull back very slightly, and begin to draw, if you will, and the fine lines. And then when I want to shade, I'll pull back the trigger a little wider. But there's also a combination of stuff you have to, that is the keeping the distance of the airbrush from your surface. So like if I'm shading, I don't want to like keep it always too close. And if I want to do a broader shade, I keep it back a little bit further. But if I do want to do closer shade, I do get it in a little closer. And in the beginning, you'll find that like when you airbrush and you do fine lines, you have to put the airbrush really close to the surface. And I had many times in my beginnings where I bent the needle tip, and when you do that, your ink comes out pretty bad afterwards. So many airbrush artists who have done airbrushing for years, they don't even use, there's a cap on the airbrush, and they don't even use the cap, because when you take the cap off, you can actually see the needle tip even better, and it can help you to position where you're exactly the line you're gonna paint. But having the cap on in the beginning is really useful, because it'll keep you from hitting the needle tip and bending it. Also, I wanted to note too that the airbrush actually uses compressed air, and that air is pushed through an air line, and there's a cup that is connected to the airbrush that can be removed, and then there are some that are built into the airbrush, which those are called gravity fed airbrushes. So if you've seen like gravity fed paint guns that they use at auto shops or other places, it's like a gun connected to an air line, but the cup that holds all the paint is on top, so that's gravity fed. We have gravity fed airbrushes as well as side fed, and that's what I'm using right now. And so this is where the ink goes, and so when we press the trigger and pull back on it, that air siphons or pulls the ink, the air pulls the ink out of the cup, and that's how you get the ink out of the airbrush. So right now I'm going to start doing some of the hair, the mane, and I'm going to use that thin line technique I was explaining to you about, that that function that you can do with the airbrush, making thin lines. So I'm beginning to just fill in the mane with with the white, and just shading it in to just give it more thickness, a real thickness to it. I'm going to continue doing that now. Once again, I'm going to rotate the painting. Oh, by the way, this is being painted on a hoodie, a blue, real thick cotton hoodie. So you'll see that in airbrushing, uh, as you begin to get accustomed to the airbrush, you can do longer streaks, lines over and over, and it becomes easier and easier. You know, at the beginning, your line is maybe nice, and then all of a sudden it will spit or dot up on you. That's because you're learning how to control everything with this trigger, your finger on the trigger. That sound that you hear clicking on right now, that's the air compressor. Hey, so thanks for joining me in this process. I mean, it's going to be take a while longer. Just keep building it, and just like any art project, you know, we just keep adding on to keep building it and building it until we feel it's reached a satisfying feel or look. And so I'm gonna just keep continuing doing this, but I hope to start another one again, and invite you into the entire process from scratch to finish. And uh, of course, I'll have to do that in parts, unless it's a smaller job, which I can do, a smaller design, a smaller piece of artwork. So thanks again for joining me at Light Metaphors. Thanks again for checking out the channel, as well as subscribing. And I just hope you are blessed and checking out and inspired, and you yourself do pick up whatever tool, instrument you love to use, and get artistic, get creative with the Holy Spirit. Let the Holy Spirit blow on your imagination. Let Him just bless your imagination. Let Him inspire you with incredible pictures and vision, and to be able to give birth to those, to express those things in whatever medium you express them in. Hey, thanks a lot again for just joining me. Thank you for checking out Light Metaphors. Subscribe. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. God bless you. We'll see you again.